Okay, we've seen a lot of things about relations and how they're pairs of numbers linked together, and some relations are what we call functions. It's only a function if it's what we call one-to-one, which is a way of saying you put in the same input and you always get the same output back. You put in a certain x value and there's only one y for it. Now, that can look different ways depending how you're expressing your function. If you have an arrow diagram, the kind where you have x values and y values, as long as you have a structure like this, then definitely you have a function. Here's an x, it's got one y value. Here's an x, it's got one y value. Here's an x, it's got a y value as well. That's what a function looks like. A more complicated version that's still a function would be if you had, here's an x, and it gives a certain y value. This is a function too. What's happening here is you have several different x values all giving the same y value, and that's okay. What matters is that if you put in this x, you know you're always going to get the same result. You put in this x, you get the same result. This function is a little boring because it always gives the same y value back, but it is still a function. Here is how you get something that isn't a function. You have your x's, and you have your y's, and you get a fork like this. Put in some numbers just for laughs. Let's say this is 3, 6, and 7. This means sometimes your input is 3 and they answer you 6. The next day you give them 3 and the answer is 7 instead. Functions are not allowed to do this. As soon as you see this, it is not a function. That means you have a single x connected to two different y's. That is not one-to-one. You have to get consistent answers. You have to know that whenever you put in this x, it's guaranteed what y is going to come back. If you have ordered pairs, 2, 3, I'm making up numbers here, 10, 11. Your function, your relation is a function as long as you have one y for every x. So a list like this is a function. Here's what not a function looks like. I give you 2 and you give me back 3. The next day, I give you 2 and you give me back something different. This is the same problem as above. I gave you the same x twice in a row. You did not give me the same answer. That means it is not a function because it isn't one-to-one. You aren't getting consistent results. And on a graph, typically functions are one-to-one as long as for every x value there's just one y value. If that isn't the case, you'll get a curve that looks like this. Here's your x, and this sort of thing happens. What's happening here is, here's an x value, here's a y that goes with it, here's another y that goes with it, and in this case, this one's a total disaster. There's even a third y that goes with it. Anytime you have a function, anytime you have a relation, I have to be careful with those words, where you have 2 points, one on top of the other, that means you gave a single x, you get one y value, and then the next time you try, you get a different y value. Either of those means that you do not have a function. When mathematicians talk about this, they call this the vertical line test. They say if you can draw a vertical line through your function anywhere, it should only hit the curve once. So this line's okay, this line's okay, this line's okay. Here, though, we get 3 hits, and here we get 3 hits. As soon as this happens even once, your relation just failed and it's not a function. If you have stacked points like this, a vertical line will hit both of them. That fails the vertical line test. It's not a function. This curve, if you try the vertical line test, you can draw vertical lines anywhere you like. You will only hit this curve once. That means it is a function. It's one-to-one. So, relations, 1x can go to any number of y's. It can give one answer or it can give several. If you want to be a function, though, you have to be consistent. That means if I give you a certain x, you better always give me the same answer. One y, the same y, every time.